أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another Ask Islam live stream brought to you by the team here in Canada. We apologize for the extreme delay. I know we had scheduled this stream for 12 p.m. And usually every week the English stream is at 12 p.m., but due to unforeseen circumstances, we were not able to do it at the scheduled time. So, inshallah, right now we're doing the stream, and hopefully, it won't be a long stream. It will be a short stream, and hopefully, you would benefit from the discussion that we will have today. Today, before I introduce the topic, I'd like to welcome Samad Naveed Saib, who's joining us from the United States of America. Samad Saib, Jazakallah for joining me today, and welcome to the stream. I really appreciate that you're my partner here today. And unfortunately, uh, my camera isn't working, so it's all you on the screen. So our viewers can see only you. And yeah, just due to the technical difficulties, I tried my best to show my face, but unfortunately, my camera would not allow. So without further ado, Sarmad Saib, I think we're going to keep the stream short today, maybe like a 15, 20-minute stream, because obviously we're already so delayed. The topic of today that we had chosen is that the Islamic blueprint to global justice. And Sarmad Saib, when I was I was instructed to choose a topic for this stream. Uh, at that same time, I'm sure everybody around the world has heard what Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, he delivered a speech at Davos, Switzerland, and a very eloquent speech, and he got a standing ovation. And he mentioned how the rule-based society that we used to live in is no more, and it resonated throughout the world with world leaders, with people of different countries, and at that time I thought, he in his speech didn't really give a solution to the collapse of the world, the world order that we continuously used to live through, in which the United States and other major powers of the world, they were governing, and uh, you know they, they basically rule the world, as to say. So I mean, he didn't really present a solution. So I thought, looking back at the efforts of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, exclusively of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Khamis Ayyadullah Ta'ala ibn Aziz, the fifth caliph of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, how for the past 20 years he has been warning the world of this stage, of this time, when uh, uh, this world order would collapse, and these institutions that have been established after the World War II to maintain peace will eventually collapse. And so, I thought, why not we discuss this timely discussion on, the what Islam gives us what the Islamic teachings are regarding global justice and global peace. So, Sarmasa, before we get into that topic and we start discussing the Islamic teachings, I just want to, for the benefit of our viewers, want to explain or want to give a brief idea of the different institutions that were established after World War II to basically maintain peace and to avoid another world conflict like World War II. So, Sarmasa, the basic institution that we know of today is the United Nations. So the United Nations was created, and it had, the main goals of the United Nations. There's four purposes that are mentioned in the United Nations Charter. Number one is to maintain international peace and security. Number two is to develop friendly relations among nations. And number three is to cooperate in solving international problems and in promoting respect for human rights. And number four is to be able to be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations. So basically, the United Nations was established to promote peace and justice in the world, and to bring harmony and peace in between warring nations. And one of the main critical components of the United Nations is the Security Council. And that Security Council consists of five main members, namely USA, China, Russia, France, and the United Kingdom. And these five nations, it's the permanent seat holders of the of this Security Council, they also have the veto power. So meaning that when something is discussed in the Security Council, for example, most recently we have the conflict here that was going on in Gaza. That was, motions were brought in front of the Security Council. They would discuss it, try to see how we can resolve this issue. So that's the Security Council. Then we also have the International Court of Justice, which was also established in 1945 after World War II. And the basic role of the Court of Justice is to, it's an advisory or an opinion-based court. So it gives rulings on, different conflicts that are happening on different uh, world leaders as well. Then we have the International Court of uh, 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 International Criminal Court. Sorry, I keep on confusing the justice and the criminal court. So the criminal court is something which is very new, Sarmatai. It was established in 2002, and this is basically it judges on the world leaders and it actually has a power to incriminate world leaders on any atrocities that are committed. And most recently, we know that the ICC incriminated the Prime Minister of Israel on counts of genocide in Gaza, which was a case brought forth by South Africa. So this is what ICC most recently is known for. So, Sarmasad, this is just a brief, introduction of all the international bodies we have. But Sarmasad, even though we have these bodies, these international institutions, we're still not able to achieve world peace or world justice. And one of the main things that, as I mentioned in the introduction of these international bodies, is that some of them are not recognized. For example, the ICC is not recognized by the United States. So the Prime Minister of Israel, if since he's incriminated and he was found guilty of genocide in Gaza, if he travels to the United States will not arrest him when he lands in the United States because they do not recognize the ICC as such. And other countries in the world are in the similar basket. And then we have the Security Council, the veto power that exists in the Security Council. That if one nation, for example, a motion is brought forth for the peace in Gaza, but if the United States doesn't like it, it can use its veto power to take out that motion and not let it be accepted. So these issues, the veto power, not recognizing the power of the ICC and its cases, has led to the implementation of peace not being put forth, and peace not being implemented, and justice not being implemented. So in light of this, Samrat Sahib, if you can give us a brief teachings of what Islam has taught us about justice and peace, about these matters, how can warring nations bring about peace in between themselves, and what is the role of a Muslim nation when it sees that two of the nations are warring, and how peace can be established.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. Atif Sahib, you've covered a lot of important stuff here in terms of where the current state of peace in our world stands and the key players in promoting or providing that peace and the roles that they're playing. And it's something which is unfortunate to see because, after, the League of Justice, which was a monumental failure after the First World War, we saw the establishment of United Nations, right? And the primary premise of the United Nations is unity. Unity
Right.
for a single purpose, for a single cause. And as you've, outlined very well, is in their own charter, preserving universal human rights and preserving universal human dignity and decency. But that unity falls apart when now everyone is playing with their own interests and their vested
Mm.
interests. And
Right.
when we see things like the veto power, which inherently opposes justice, because veto power ultimately says that these five nations can ultimately decide whether they feel like it's in their best interests to either let a motion pass or to veto it. So when you're talking about, well, what can we find as a wholesale solution? We've got experts, we've got people who have dedicated their life's work to figuring
Mm.
out how to find and achieve world peace. But what is it, the key ingredient that's missing? What is it that, is there a wholesale approach? Is there a crux to the matter that we can get to? And that's what we want to sort of try to tackle today. which is that from the Islamic standpoint, what is that crux? What is the one thing that we can sort of establish, even fine tune if it's a slight adjustment, and attain that peace in the world? And it's something similar to, all right, you look at it today, everyone wants that money. Everyone wants that, flashy car. Everyone wants that, big expensive house.
Right.
And it all looks good, right? But the only way to achieve that is to put the necessary work in. In the same vein, we all want peace. No one in the right mind would say that I want unrest in the world, right? We
Right.
all want
Right.
peace, but are we willing to put in that work for peace? What is that work? That work is justice.
Mm.
Justice is the key principle to establishing peace. Why? Because peace without justice is nothing more than a temporary ceasefire, something we're
Right.
all too familiar, a term we're all too familiar with hearing.
Right. Right.
But with justice, justice establishes the foundation upon which that peace is established. And
Mm.
so, what does Islam say about this? Well, let's go with the source of Islam. In the Holy Quran, in chapter 5, verse 9, says, O ye who believe, be steadfast in the cause of Allah, bearing witness in equity, and let not a people's enmity incite you to act otherwise than with justice. Be always just, that is near that is near to righteousness, and fear Allah. Surely Allah is well aware of what you do. So the Quran sets the baseline, the fundamental framework
Mm.
that justice is a key principle when we're dealing with other people, when we're dealing with our fellow human beings, when we're dealing with our fellow nations. Justice is a key principle. But what exactly does that justice look like? God
Mm.
says in chapter 4 of the Holy Quran, verse 59, verily Allah commands you to make over trust to those entitled to them, and that when you judge between men, you judge with justice. And surely excellent is that with which Allah admonishes you, and Allah is all hearing, all seeing. Now, let's talk about the ultimate form of justice. Ultimately, what can we practically take that justice to mean? God says in the Holy Quran, chapter 6, verse 153, and when you speak, observe justice, even if the concerned person be a relative, and fulfill the covenant of Allah.
Right. Right.
Elsewhere, God also says that if you have to bear witness against your parents, if against your spouse, even if you have to bear witness against yourself, that is the level of justice which Islam requires a Muslim and a Muslim nation to follow. Now,
Right.
coming back to the United Nations, coming back to Security Council, coming back to veto power, these are principles which, if were to be followed, then we wouldn't have something like veto power. We wouldn't
Right.
have vested interests, because ultimately then
Mm.
a country would not say, well, okay, sure, we could, let's say, for example, in the case of Gaza, we could establish, vote in favor of a permanent ceasefire. And ultimately that would save lives. Ultimately, that would, stop the barbarity and the killing, no matter which side you are on. Human lives are being lost. Human dignity is being lost. Let's preserve that.
Right.
If
Right.
justice was kept in mind, then that's the only thing that would matter. But when
Mm.
vested interests come in, and you're no longer bearing witness against yourself, so to speak, in the terminology of the Holy Quran, then these instances come in where, well, okay, but how does that benefit us? How does that benefit our bottom dollar? Or to
Right.
say that we will take out a oppressive regime in another country, but underneath that is, well, there's a lot of oil in that country at the same time.
Right.
So
Right.
that vested interest. So are you really working to help those people, or are you looking to, sure, let's help those people, but at the same time, we're looking at our bottom dollar?
Right.
Islam says that this fundamental way in which the world has been operating, where this selflessness, number one, to put one's own self and vested interests aside, and number two, to treat everyone equitably, has not existed, which is why we see the unrest and the lack of peace in the world today. So,
Mm.
okay, what are the practical examples? Well, the founder of Islam, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon
Absolutely.
him, was, of course, first and foremost, a prophet of God, the elect of God, the seal of prophets, and assumed the highest spiritual rank any human being ever has on the face of this earth. At the same time, he was also a state leader. He became effectively the state head of Medina when he migrated there.
mm,
Now, when he migrated there, he was migrating in lieu of extreme torture, extreme boycotts, and the worst imaginable sorts of oppression that he faced. And this oppression came from non-believers, it came from idolaters, it came from Jews, it came from Christians. When the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, arrives to Medina, one of the first things that he does is establish a charter of rights with Medina, known as the Charter of Medina. And this is primarily established with the Jewish people who were residing there. Now, if the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, were, God forbid, to act in a similar manner to, let's say, the powers that be today,
mm,
he would have thought that, well, it's not in my best interest to establish a treaty with them because they've oppressed me. So how does this
mm,
benefit me? I should wait until such a time where I can exert my power over them, or I've become
mm,
the state leader. Now I can say
yeah,
or do whatever I want. But at that
mm,
time, the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, did
so-
not
so-
allow for his own vested interest to come into play. Similar is the case with the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, where the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, established peace with the Meccans, the very Meccans who had so brutally tortured him and his followers for
mm,
13 years, driving them out of Mecca. And when the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is establishing this peace treaty, his own followers are asking him, it seems like you're conceding. It seems as though
mm,
you are, allowing for certain things to be given up only in order to appease the Meccans. Are you not
mm,
true? Are you not the Prophet of God? And the Holy
right.
Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, of course I am. But to the end of establishing peace and looking for the greater good, the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, had no problem putting his vested or any personal emotions that could have potentially existed and putting
Mm,
them to the side. This goes to show that this is a primary example, a fundamental example that we're not all talk. We're saying
mm,
that this is practically, enforceable, can be implemented, and again, to what end? To establishing peace in the world. And this is what the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said. He said that there was a time when the children of Israel, if someone prominent from among them were to steal, for example, then somebody prominent could speak up on their behalf and they would be let go. But if someone poor who wasn't well connected or wasn't in good standing in the society, they
mm,
stole, then their hands would be cut off immediately. The level of justice which the Holy
mm,
Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, established was that he said, even if his own daughter were to steal, his own daughter being in that society of the highest stature because she's the daughter of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings
so-
of Allah
so-
be upon him. He
right.
said that didn't matter. If his own daughter were to steal, then she
Mm,
would face the same punishment that anybody else, rich or poor, young or old, regardless of caste, creed, or color, would face. And so
mm,
this is the level of justice which Islam seeks to establish. And the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, he said that to the end of establishing peace, it's easy to be cordial with your enemy. Anyone can,
right.
nod your head, smile, and, say hello and move on. What's difficult is to uphold the rights of your enemy, no
Right.
matter if you might be at odds,
Mm,
physically, politically, whatever the case might be. True justice is when you are able to stand up for the fundamental rights of even your enemy. And so Islam says that when two nations are at odds with one another, a neutral nation should step in and should
mm,
broker peace. They should establish peace. Again, not with the interest in mind that, well, okay, if I broker this peace, then perhaps I can get something out of it for my nation, or my nation can benefit some way, somehow, or we will hold this over them, and this will be something that will be returned to us in another form later on. No,
mm,
solely for the sake of establishing and to the end of establishing peace, Islam says that these are the fundamental teachings which can be established in order to achieve world peace. And today we see that the head of the worldwide head of the Ahmadi Muslim community, the fifth caliph, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, he goes around, whether it's to Capitol Hill in the US, whether it's to the European Parliament, whether it's the British Parliament, the Canadian Parliament, UNESCO, headquarters, wherever it may be, the holy the caliph, His Holiness, has gone around the world. And one line which has always stuck out to me when he's advising nations is that you should set aside your vested interests. So when we're talking about what is the crux, what is that one slight shift that perhaps needs to happen in order to establish peace in the world? It's letting go of individual vested interests and coming together with the collective interest that at a certain point we need to realize that the true unity that we need to establish in the world is not ideological, it's at a human level. That humans all across the board deserve equal and equitable treatment. And this is what Islam says. That sure, there will be differences of opinion, there will be differences of religion, there will be differences in political views, and that's okay. But Islam does not seek to say that until and unless every single person believes in exactly the same thing, only then peace can be established. No. Islam says that in the midst of differences, peace can be established, and that is through justice and equitable treatment in the ways which I've just described.
Jazakallah. Thank you, Samar Sahib. MashaAllah, very well put. Examples from the Holy Quran, the verses that Allah the Almighty has revealed about justice and upholding justice, even if one has to, give testimony against themselves or their family members. And then obviously the examples of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, how he practically displayed those teachings of the Holy Quran and was an example of those teachings. And then, of course, the current statements and the speeches that His Holiness, the fifth Caliph of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, has been, giving speeches around the world in different parliaments. And like you mentioned, the key thing that he has been focusing on is vested interests. That if one wants to have justice and if one wants to establish peace, then the personal gains, they have to be put aside, and everything has to be focused on that one thing of justice and peace. So Samir Sahib, Jazakallah, I think very well put. I mean, I have nothing really to add to this, and I think we should end off with this teaching and with these statements. Jazakallah Samad Said for joining me today. We're having a short program today because of the delay and some other programs that are scheduled. Jazakallah to our viewers as well. Hopefully you benefited from this stream. And the Islamic teachings are very clear on regarding the establishment of justice. And if there's no justice, there will be no peace either. Like you said and rightfully put, that peace without justice is a temporary ceasefire, the examples of this exist in the human history as well. And one only needs to go back and read those historical accounts and see how if true justice was not established, neither was peace. Peace did not follow that period of history. So once again, Samar Sahib, Jazakallah to our viewers. Also, Jazakallah for joining us, and hopefully you benefited from this stream. Inshallah, just to let our viewers know, we do have our Urdu streams on Wednesdays, and then on Thursdays, English streams. The timing is 12 p.m., but due to the unforeseen circumstances today, we had it a little bit delayed. But just keep in mind that in the future, our streams are always at 12 p.m. With that, we would take leave from our viewers. Jazakumullah ta'ala aslan jaza. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.